A municipality in New York would forbid landlords from evicting tenants if they sell the property. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of a pretty small town in the state of New York called Hudson, and it's a town of only 5,900 people. But what's happening in this small town, it's actually going to impact the entire state of New York, and it could impact the entire country if the state of New York suddenly starts passing more of these good cause eviction laws. Now, as you know, I've already covered good cause eviction laws, and basically they put down a small, very specific number of reasons why you can evict a tenant from a property, right? And if you don't have one of those specific reasons, that tenant can't be removed. Now, in the city of Hudson, they've made it even stricter than a lot of the other cities have, in that even if you are selling the property, right, if you don't have one of these good cause reasons, you cannot remove that tenant. So imagine you're putting your property up for sale, and you want to empty it out so that the new tenant or the new person who owns it can actually live in it. Well, you can't get rid of that tenant even if you sell it just for that reason. That's not one of the reasons that is approved according to this town. Now, that's absolutely crazy. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think, okay? Do you think that sounds like a good idea? Do you think it sounds like a good idea to not be able to remove a tenant, even if you are selling the property? Okay, that is beyond too far, okay? That is taking away too many of the property rights from the owner. Not all these properties are owned by these multi-millionaires who are way richer than necessary, okay? Some of these properties are owned by small landlords who own one, maybe two properties, and they don't want to have to deal with this nonsense. And this is exactly what these good cause eviction laws is. It's nonsense, okay? It's a regulation put on a property giving more rights to the renter than the owner themselves has, okay? So this article, it's coming from timesunion.com, and it says, Hudson passes good cause eviction law more radical than its neighbors. And I'm glad that it even says that it's radical right there in the title. So let's see exactly what this article says. The city's Common Council voted unanimously last week to enact a stringent anti-eviction law to stem displacement in the rapidly gentrifying community of 5,900. The law would necessitate the automatic renewal of residential leases in the city, ending landlords' ability to easily displace their tenants at the end of a lease. Versions of the law that have passed or introduced in several communities in the Hudson Valley, including in the city of Albany. But Hudson's law goes further than its neighbors. Yeah, there's been a few different cities from what I've read. There's been 4 or 5 different communities where they've passed these laws, and it's spreading throughout the entire state of New York, and it's going to start spreading to other states as well. And it's going to start off with the progressive states, but believe me, you're going to look in places like Omaha and Kansas City one day, and they're going to be, maybe we should pass this good cause eviction law too. Okay, this stuff, it spreads like wildfire. That's why we got to jump on it right now while it's still small and, take it down. We need to find out everything that's wrong with it, because really what this is it's an extension of the eviction moratorium. And I realized that when I first started reading about it. I'm like, why are these good cause eviction laws coming up now? Well, they, for the eviction moratorium, they said, well, we don't want to evict people for non-payment of rent. So now part of these good cause eviction laws is, well, we don't want to evict people for non-payment of rent if the landlord raised the rent. So now we have elements of rent control in there. We have elements of the eviction moratorium in there. Basically, these good cause eviction laws are the wet dream of the tenant right advocate groups. Okay, so yeah, craziness. We got to stop them now. In a statement, Claire Cousins of the Hudson Catskill Housing Coalition said the law is an acknowledgement of the crisis that our community is currently in. We believe that our city understands what is at stake and is taking the necessary steps to make Hudson an equitable, fair place for people to remain citizens in, the statement continued. The HCHC has pushed for the legislation adoption in the city, along with Second Ward Alderwoman Tiffany Garriga and Mayor Kamal Johnson, who is expected to sign the resolution into law. If the legislation is enacted, landlords would have to go through eviction proceedings in front of a city judge to remove a renter at any point in their tenancy. Legitimate reasons for removing the tenant include damaging the property, conducting illegal activity at the rental, or refusing to enter into a lease with the landlord. Tenants could still be removed for non-payment of rent, but not if the non-payment was due to rent being raised more than 5% in a year, though the 5% rule does not apply when improvements are made to the property. So let's go over exactly what this says here. It sounds like, so you could remove a tenant for damaging the property, illegal activity, or refusing to sign a new lease. But what good is signing a lease for the landlord if you can't just terminate the lease? Okay, I mean, it sounds a little bit ridiculous to me. And a lot of the stipulations and stuff that you have in the lease, like if I said, hey, I don't want you to be able to sublease my property, if I wrote that in there and said that is a offense that is cause for eviction, well, guess what, that's not one of the causes they have. So you could literally do pretty much whatever you wanted. You could sublet it, you could rent it out on Airbnb, and there's nothing, I couldn't evict you because that is not one of the reasons or one of the causes in the good cause eviction thing that would allow me to remove you. So that's completely ridiculous. So you can also not remove a tenant for non-payment of rent if you raise the rent more than 5% per year. So the situation I always bring up, and this is the same with rent control, is what if your rents are already under market value? So let's say the average rents in the area are $1,000 a month, but you've been renting your place out for $500 a month for the last 20 years, right? No big deal. So now you clean the place up, you're ready to rent it out to a new tenant, and you're limited to 5%. So you can only raise the rents on that apartment $25 a month. Why? Because it's completely ridiculous when you think about it. This law, you can only raise, so now the rents only can be $525. You can't remove that tenant for not wanting to pay more than that. I mean, it's really, if you look at it like that, it's almost a form of rent control on top of a thing that completely blocks you from evicting a lot of tenants. So this kind of law is insane. The legislation has been pushed up and down the Hudson Valley by Citizen Action of New York, a progressive nonprofit, and good cause eviction laws have also been adopted in Newburgh, with Poughkeepsie's version passed by its Common Council and awaiting the mayor's signature. However, Hudson's version of the law does not allow landlords to remove tenants if the property is being sold. Newburgh, Albany, and Poughkeepsie's version of the law all allow tenants to be removed for this reason. And as I said before, that's complete BS. Okay, if you own a single family house and you had a tenant in there with a 1-year lease, you decide to sell that property, come at the end of their year, you're like, okay, we're not going to renew your lease because I'm selling the property to a person who wants to own or occupy it. Well, guess what? You can't do that now. If that tenant says, no, I'm not leaving, well, they have a right to it more than the new owner. They have more rights to it than you do as the current owner. So basically they're taking away landlords' property rights with this nonsense. We have to fight this stuff, okay? I know this is just a small town, but as I said before, this is going to spread throughout the entire state of New York. We've already got several municipalities doing it up there, and after it goes through New York, it's going to go up the Northeast and then spread throughout the rest of the country. And this is the way they're going to figure out to work around places that have rent controls and no eviction bans in place. They're going to put this stuff in place instead and be like, oh, this is good for the tenants. Meanwhile, the small landlords are losing their shirts. Hudson's good cause legislation originally included language allowing landlords to remove tenants during a sale, but it was vetoed by Johnson. Johnson said he vetoed the original resolution so the Common Council's legal committee could update the language to include the added protection for tenants, many of whom are displaced when properties change hands. What we're seeing is a lot of people buying property, displacing tenants, and flipping them for a higher price, Johnson said. Yeah, there's nothing illegal about that. That's exactly what a lot of people do. Okay, you buy the property, you improve it, you fix it up, you make it nicer, you make the area nicer by doing that. Keeping the place dilapidated and in bad shape. I mean, come on. Who would want to do that? I mean, it's completely ridiculous, but I'm not surprised. Okay, this is just a small town for now, but let's make sure. I want to make sure that people, throughout the entire country, they know that, hey, this is what's coming. This is the new thing, these good cause eviction laws. Okay, and look out for it. Make sure that you fight it if it comes into wherever you're doing business right now.